And our buddy Albert Breer, Monday morning quarterback. He got a great story this morning, an article that details that the run game, it's a little bit of a renaissance with a run game. Now obviously, you have to have the right personnel, but kind of explain to the audience, we saw it last night with Dalvin Cook, why the run game is making a renaissance here.
Well, I mean, it's basically the premise of analytics, and what we've seen in analytics in different sports, which is you're searching for inefficiencies. And what's the biggest inefficiency in football right now? Biggest inefficiency is run defense, because what teams have done is they built defenses to rush and cover to deal with spread offenses. What aren't you doing? You're not drafting 250-pound linebackers. You're not drafting 330-pound defensive tackles. And so, what some of these teams have said is, if we've got a power running game, it's going to be really, really difficult for other teams to deal with it. And so you see New England, you see Indianapolis, you see San Francisco, you see Baltimore, you see even Philadelphia, really leaning on the run game, knowing that, some of these defenses just don't have answers for it. And you know what's really interesting about it, Colin? Look at the last few champions, like the last few championship teams. They've all had big backs.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Leonard Fournette last year. 2 years ago, it was Damian Williams. The year before that, it was Sonny Michel in New England. The year before that, LeGarrette Blount for the Philadelphia Eagles. All these teams, they throw the ball well, but they also have an element of a power run game. And I think that that's what smart teams are doing right now. They're building that into their offense. I'm not saying we're going back to 1965 here, but they're building that into their offense because they know there's something that they can take advantage of league-wide and how defenses are built.
Yeah, this is a fascinating topic because as the league is good, linebackers now look like safeties about 7 years ago. You got 200
and safeties are converted corners.
Yeah, and so let's get big. That's why Derrick Henry now is like a refrigerator on the loose down a hill. He looks so much bigger than everybody. All right, Steve. I thought last night Big Ben was almost heroic. A lot of mistakes, huge deficit, and I don't know what their succession plan is. But Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph are not giving me that second half. That I know. What did you take away from Tomlin, the Steelers, their mistakes, and Big Ben last night?
It just feels like they're in between right now in how they've built. They've got a bunch of players who are in their prime who I think are going to continue to be really good players. Your Minkah Fitzpatricks, your T.J. Watts. Obviously, he gets hurt last night, but he's in that category. Offensively, like Najee Harris looks like he's really going to be something. You've got some good young receivers in Deontay Johnson, and I know what he did at the end of the game was inexcusable, but Chase Claypool's in that group too. A couple of good rookie linemen. So it feels like there's a team there that's building towards maybe opening up a championship window relatively soon, and you're going to have your quarterback going out the door. And so I think they're in an interesting spot going into this offseason. Do you go in on a Kenny Pickett? They've been down this road before. They had a win-now team that Ben Roethlisberger walked into, so maybe that is a good situation for a rookie quarterback, the same way the Patriots situation was good for a rookie quarterback this year. Or do you, act a little out of character and take a big swing on a veteran and go look at, maybe a Deshaun Watson or a Russell Wilson or an Aaron Rodgers? I just think it's fascinating, when you look at it, Colin, because really this is a team that they haven't failed to build the way that they built over the years. It feels like now they're starting to get to a point where they've got a good core in place that can compete for a championship. The question is going to be where they are at the most important position on the field after this year.
Well, we know, Albert, it is a weak quarterback class. My guess is Aaron Rodgers stays in Green Bay. I think he'd be nuts to leave. I like it. Now, Pete and Deshaun may be out there, but there's 9 teams that need a quarterback, 10 if he can't mount Ryan. So Atlanta may draft somebody, but Matt's a cap hit, so he'll stay. So the question is, and I've said I think Tua at times is a left-handed Mac Jones. Lower ceiling, very accurate. With a good defensive coach, you can win a lot of games with Tua. The question is, can he win shootouts? Can he go on the road against Aaron Rodgers? That's the question. So you tell me, what do your sources say? Yes, 2 months ago, we had Tua getting a U-Haul and leaving town. Where are they at now this morning with Tua?
I think that they're in the same spot they have been. Look, they've done a lot to help him. There's no question about that. And in Tua's defense, their offensive coordinator situation was a mess at the beginning of the year. And I think, the emergence of George Godsey after about a month as the offensive play caller has made a huge difference. They've gone to a more RPO-based game. It's not all they do, but it's a big piece of what they do. And that's done 2 things. Number one, it's sort of masked the offensive line issue they have, which is still there. And then number two, it's what Tua did so well at Alabama, and so they've gotten him going that way. And I think that they've sort of been able to dress it up in a certain way that works for Tua. Now, does that mean the flaws that we saw earlier in the year have gone away? No. I mean, there's a chance that teams catch up to what the Dolphins are doing now. And now Tua is going to have to learn to counterpunch again. Good progress over the last couple of months. I'm not sure that it's convinced anybody there, though, that they shouldn't be involved if Deshaun Watson's available again in February or March, especially if they don't make the playoffs. Because, Colin, if they don't make the playoffs, that's 3 years for Brian Flores and Chris Greer. And so I think they'd survive that because they've gotten hot here of late. But you aren't going to survive 4 years without making the playoffs. So they'd be going into the offseason with a lot on the line for everyone in that building. Yeah. And then the question becomes, isn't Tua good? It's, are you willing to tie your job security to Tua? And that's where I think the decision to take a big swing on Deshaun Watson again could come. Yeah,
good intel as always, Albert. Finally, we were saying this yesterday. I think sometimes it's hard to unsee greatness. So when Mahomes is throwing for 50 touchdowns, you can't unsee it. But the truth was the following year, he had 26 touchdowns and really struggled the last 5-6 games of that year, and then he got hot in the playoffs. So my argument's been, mechanically, he's always been inconsistent. That's what the scout said in college. He's always been a little bit of a streaky quarterback. We just can't unsee 50 touchdowns MVP because it was a fireworks show. It was the best fireworks show you've ever been to in your life. So in the last 8 weeks, he hasn't played well except the Raider game. He was amazing, and they play the Raiders again. So explain to me what happened in the Raider game, because that is a complete outlier for Patrick in the last 8 weeks.
There's been a blueprint, drawn to some degree, and that most teams are playing too high against the Chiefs and saying to the Chiefs, like, let's see if you can go 10 plays. Let's see if you can go 12 plays. Let's see if you've got the patience to check the ball down. Let's see if you can go somewhere other than Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. Let's see if you've got the patience and the consistency to do that. And I think that's caused them to struggle a little bit. It's cut down their possessions for sure because that shortens the game. And the difference in that Raider game is the Raiders were the one team that didn't do that. The Raiders stuck to that Seattle type of defense that Gus Bradley's always run. And lo and behold, they explode for 41 points. Yeah. And so it's something that the Chiefs have to figure out. And I think part of it's because there's been so much going on this year with that offense, right? You've got 5 new offensive linemen, and then there's this adjustment that you've got to make. And so, I think it's sort of on Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy and Mike Kafka, all the guys that are working with Patrick, and it has been, to get him to take the easy money more often, because you do that, and then you're going to start to open up things down the field. So I think this is part of the natural maturation process for Patrick Mahomes here in year 5, and he's going to have to get better at these things because eventually the money he's making is going to wind up meaning there's going to be a little bit less around him on offense. So I think it's good long-term for Patrick Mahomes. The question is whether or not they can get it together. The good news, though, is the defense has really carried them through the last 5 weeks. They've held their last 5 opponents under 20 points, which is a pretty good streak for that defense that was, under a lot of fire earlier in the year. And it sort of makes you wonder, Colin, you watched Alabama on Saturday, right? Right. Like, we questioned them all year. Oh, wait, they're still bigger and stronger and faster than everybody. Like, I'm just sort of, I guess we're all waiting for that light bulb moment to happen, right? Like, where they flip the switch like Bama did. And it's like, oh, yeah, they're still better than everybody else. Yeah. Maybe it happens between the end of the season, but between now and the end of the season, we'll see.
Have a great weekend, buddy. Great to see you. Albert Breer, always great information.
All right, thanks, Colin.
You bet. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.